Hey guys, it's Ryan here with HobbiesofaMan once again, and today I want to talk about serial fiction, I think is the best way to call it. Now, many years ago, I think someone commented on one of my YouTube videos. They asked, hey man, do you read anything on Royal Road? And my answer at the time was no, because I don't know how to tell if something is done by an American creator or some like a creator in general, and what is actually illegal translations of Japanese light novels, right? And I still don't. However, while I was on Reddit one day, I was browsing, whatever I was reading on Reddit. I ended up looking at, what was it? I think it was one of the harem-lit subreddits. I think it was Romance for Men or something like that. I was just kind of browsing through there. A lot of authors I know post there, and I was going through it. Someone asked about female-dominated stories, I think, with like sci-fi female-dominant stories. It led me to find Snack Guy, who is a author that does work completely free. He churns out books. You can get them for free on his website. However, if you want a professionally made book, you can actually buy it from his Amazon page. And I think there's even like different versions, and you can even get audiobooks from him. And that led me to HFY. Now, HFY stands for Humanity Fuck Yeah. I'm not really sure how I ended up there, because as far as I understand it, Snack Guy's stories aren't necessarily that. But I somehow ended up on that subreddit, and from there I found this awesome story called The Nature of Predators. It's a sci-fi space opera story, and it's actually very reminiscent to a story I really love, one of my favorite sci-fi stories, and actually one of my dad's favorite sci-fi stories as well, which is Evan Curry's Odyssey 1. Now, in Odyssey 1, we follow humanity as it does its first FTL travel beyond our solar system, and we follow the Odyssey, the ship, as it does its maiden voyage out of the world, first FTL travel, and somehow humanity and the Odyssey and the Odyssey's captain, Eric Weston, end up falling into a war, basically, a genocidal war. It follows, this war is between the Primine, who are human-looking aliens that have a very strict pacifist code, and these cockroach, spider, bug aliens that have a hive mind called the Drazen, or the Drazen? I don't know how to say it. I've never actually had to say it out loud, and I've never heard anyone say it before, but so humanity gets embroiled in this conflict, and because humans are basically space orcs in this story, if you're familiar with that that short fiction prompt, I think it's very popular on Tumblr, I think, but basically humans are crazy compared to the Primine, and because of that, and because we're so war-addled, so interested in battle, we manage to save the Primine, right? And so the Primine now become friends with humanity, with Terrans, and chaos ensues across the universe as we work together to get rid of the Drazen. So that's Odyssey 1. However, the story I want to talk about today, and I am sorry for all the preamble, is The Nature of Predators, and it reminds me a lot of that Odyssey 1 story that I just mentioned. So I found it on HFY, eventually realized that it was actually posted on Royal Road, and I could read it as a book on there, and also you can buy the first 40 chapters on Amazon. It was recently released, like sometime last year, or the year before maybe. So you can buy a book version of this. I'm not sure if it's any good, but you can read it for free on Royal Road if you're interested, or just on the HFY subreddit at your leisure. And I actually recommend it. I think it's great. It follows humanity as they take their maiden voyage outside of our solar system using FTL travel or something akin to FTL travel, and they finally find another populated planet. And we actually start from the perspective of the aliens, The aliens are called Venlil, L-I-L. They're like little goat people, basically. I actually imagine them more as cat people, but every depiction I've seen of them are actually like goat people. Very cute, no horns, very adorable actually. And they're immediately scared of humanity because humans have front-facing eyes. And so humanity is coming down. Two people specifically are coming down. Noah, and I think the female character is called Samantha. And they come down to the Venlin, and they come in peace. They offer, interest and stuff. However, initially, the Venlin, the Venlil, are afraid of them because our forward-facing eyes means that we're predators, and humanity is only the second race of intelligent beings in the universe that has ever been a predator. And the first ones are the Axnor, I think is what they're called. They're crocodile men, basically. If you've ever seen artwork depicting Sobek, the Egyptian god, that's basically what they look like. They're gray crocodile men. And so, and they're actually fighting a genocidal war against this federation of 300 herbivorous intelligent species, sapient species, and the Venlo are one of them. And so everyone is afraid of humanity initially. However, the Venlo leader of the planet at that point decides to trust the humans. She puts the humans under specific tests to show that they are empathic and that they can, actually interact with the Venlo. And so humanity and the Venlo are tied together for the rest of the story. And I really, really, really like it. I think that it's a really interesting premise. It's a good start. And humanity, the whole time, doesn't want to go to war. They just want to have friends out in space, which I think is probably how humanity would act, assuming that we're facing aliens that are stronger than us. Humanity has shown very often that when we encounter a species that is weaker than us, or a group of people that are weaker than us, we are likely to subjugate them. Neanderthals, other human species, or like Homo florensis, I guess. And of course, when we went from the old world to the new world, we have proven time and time again that first contact probably ends with subjugation of one species over the other. And of course, the Federation of Planets, or whatever they're called, are afraid that humanity is going to join forces with the Axnor in order to do this. However, humans spend the whole time of the early chapters trying to avoid this reality, being like, no, we do not want to do this. However, they face severe and very harsh prejudice for being predator descendant, basically. But it's a really interesting, really beautifully crafted story, actually. I really like it. I think it's great. We eventually meet Marcel, who is a human, and Slanik, who is a Venlil, and they are part of the initial exchange program between the two races. And it's actually not an exchange program as much as it is a partner program. And so Slanik and Marcel become friends. Marcel's actually a vegetarian, so he's actually a really good point of contact for the Venlil. And this starts basically our main group of characters for the story is Marcel and Slanik. Eventually, Marcel and Slanik end up in a bit of trouble. They end up on a ship with a Gojin, I think is what they're called, who is named, what's his name? Well, I don't actually know his name. I don't remember. But they end up with this Gojin, I think his name is. That's his species, I think, who are basically hedgehog people. And he actually tortures Marcel. And Slanik is upset about this. And eventually, through some reason, Marcel and Slanik are back with the Venlil on Venlil Prime. And humanity is rather upset. They take out the Gojid defenses. They take out their infrastructure, their war infrastructure. And at this point, the Axnor attack. And so humanity actually changes tactics from destroying the infrastructure of the Gojids to actually helping them get rid of the Axnor, because humanity also sees Axnor as enemies because they are so disgustingly genocidal, basically. They actually eat other aliens, and so it's fucked up, right? And so now we get introduced to this third character who's relevant to the story later on. And then we get introduced to Marcel's buddy. His name is Dylan, maybe? And through him, we learn... his name is Tyler. And he eventually gets a partner who is a yotl, which is basically a marsupial person, which I would assume it means that they're kind of like little kangaroo people. They're herbivores, and they're very feisty. And his partner is called Anso. And so now we have another character. And the Gojid character that I mentioned eventually turns to the side of humanity, basically out of remorse. And he becomes relevant. He has two human partners. And all of that is really, really good. I really like how all of the characters are woven in. The story is great. Everything is so awesome. It's just really, really cool. Like, I really like how Space Paladin, I think that's his name, Space Paladin 15, managed to create the story, because I very much doubt that he did it with the intention of making it this long. I don't think that he started out with the idea of creating this great story. I think he actually kind of stumbled upon this and eventually continued to work on it. However, I commend that. I think that is amazing. I hope that he eventually manages to get compensation for his work in a way that is satisfying to him through, merchandising it into a series of books on Amazon that he can sell, and a Patreon and stuff like that. But I do want to mention that I find the ending of the story kind of weak. There is a really great plot twist that really changes the dynamic of the story that is phenomenal. However, this plot twist then charges into the ending of the story. And the ending of the story has a secondary plot twist, which is supposed to be kind of explaining that first one. And I find that part of the story to be rather weak. I think that it doesn't work that well, because the amount of chapters between that reveal and the end of the story is very short. And those chapters aren't really focusing on the things that I found most important. And so I do find the ending to be a bit weak. And there is a second story that continues on from the end of the first one. So there is a possibility of exploring some of those issues later on. But I really don't think that that's what the second story is going to focus on. I think that there was a very interesting opportunity to create more massive conflict and continue to finish and finagle and create the story into this really interesting kind of complex, almost like exploration of the reality of sentience, and also of being a very powerful sentient species. And I think that it wasn't really explored that well. And that second plot twist that I mentioned that's supposed to explain the first one or be a reason to why the Federation is the way it is, felt weak, felt really small compared to what basically ended up happening. And ultimately, I feel like the ending kind of fizzled out, which sucks. I think that sucks. It's bad. However, the story up to that point was phenomenal. Like, straight up 10 out of 10 stuff. Even with the ending, I would call this like a 9 out of 10 story, an 8.5 out of 10 story. Like, I enjoyed myself immensely reading this. There was days that I really couldn't put down my phone because I wanted to keep reading chapters of this story. There's 184 chapters in the first story, so it's actually really, really enjoyable. And there's a lot of content to read. I actually want to show this story to my dad. He's a very big fan of military sci-fi, and this falls into that category. However, I really don't think that my dad will want to read this story because it's kind of hard to market to like a 55-year-old man because of the steps that it has to take to be enjoyed. Now, I'm sure that a lot of people on Reddit are 55-year-olds, and a lot of them are on HFY, and a lot of them found this story, but my dad is not going to be one of those. And so I might want to share the book with him. However, the cover of the book that's on Amazon is kind of cutesy for what it is. And so it's not easy to be like, Dad, read this. I'm sure that it's just going to be something you enjoy. He might trust me enough to give it a chance. And at that point, he might want to read it. But if I tell him to buy it now, he's not going to do it for a while, right? And so I do think that there's some changes that can be made to kind of how this story is marketed. But ultimately, I think it's a great story. I think that if you're willing to give it a chance, if you're willing to go on Reddit or Royal Road or even on Amazon, you should check it out. I think it's wonderful. I actually recommend you read it through Royal Road. I think it's the best way to do it. It's really easy to set up on your phone, and it's really easy to find. It's very, enjoyable. And also because Royal Road is set up to be like a serial reading website, it's actually really easy to navigate compared to Reddit, which is actually kind of easy to navigate. It's about the same actually as Royal Road. However, there's kind of like a weirdness attached to Reddit because you have like this extra interaction that you might not want while you're reading, right? Which is the comments. I wasn't actually interested in reading the comments for this story, although maybe I will go back and do that later, but I find Royal Road to be the best way to read this story, and I recommend you guys check it out. Like I said, it's a 8.5 or 9 out of 10 story. I think it's phenomenal. The ending is a little bit of a fizzle out at the end. However, there's more to the story. There's extra bonus content that you can read on his Patreon. There's a lot of extra stuff that you can get access to if you want to. There seems to be a very big flourishing community around the story. There's also a subreddit. I actually saw Space Paladin make a post recently about how, although he appreciated everyone's support, a lot of people seem to be hating on his story lately a lot, and it's been affecting him negatively. So my heart goes out to Space Paladin. I hope that he kind of doesn't take those things to heart, because ultimately his story is great, and the fact that he managed to publish it the way he did, and that it managed to garner such a strong love, a strong audience, is phenomenal. It's actually something that I'm guessing is probably quite difficult to do, and something that he managed to do very well. So I hope that he doesn't take the negative aspects to heart. He focuses on the positives, and that more people find the story, because I think it's great. I really, really love it. I think it's awesome. So those are my thoughts on The Nature of Predators, my thoughts on serial science fiction, and my thoughts about Odyssey 1 as well, because I mentioned a little bit of everything here. So this is a random ramble video. I hope you guys enjoy. Thank you guys very much for watching, and see you guys later.